Hello again, good day, and this is Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. We're going to talk briefly about Joseph Smith's family tree. I'll give you a link for this page. Brigham Young said that the Lord his eyes have been upon Joseph Smith and upon his father and upon their father's father, upon their progenitors back to Adam, and that his blood has been washed and the blood has been circulated from the foundation of the birth of that man, and foreordained into eternity to preside over the last dispensation. Joseph Smith learned much from his ancestors during his upbringing in New England, including hard work, devotion to God, and patriotism. Family tree tell you a little more about his ancestors. Robert Smith, third great grandfather, left England and as a teenager moved to America. He arrived in Boston in 1638, and I believe this was the individual that started to search for things outside of mainstream Christianity, if I'm not mistaken. Mary Finch, Prophet's great-grandmother Mary, third great-grandmother Mary, had 10 children. She and her husband spent most of their married lives in Topsfield, Massachusetts. Samuel Smith Sr., born to Robert and Mary in 1666. Let's look back at 1638 is when he arrived in Boston as Robert Smith. So they've been here a while. This is before the American Revolution. See, Rebecca Curtis. Rebecca had 9 children. Her first son was Samuel Jr. Samuel Smith Jr. was known as a Christian, a community leader, and a supporter of the American War of Independence. Now, let's see, when was Samuel born? I don't know. I'm going to have to look at that. I don't know. We're talking pre-American War of Independence, and he supported it, so he had to be born before that time. Priscilla Guild died after having 5 children. She died and married her cousin, who raised Priscilla's children. So I don't know who that cousin was, but Hazel Smith. Now this is a very interesting man. I'll know a little more about him. He's the grandfather of Joseph Smith, born in 1744. He had several visions and an understanding that someone in his posterity would change the way Christianity was accepted and lived. He lived in Turnbridge, Vermont, and was known as community service, and believed in a loving God in his life and life after death. He also had a testimony of the Savior. Hazel predicted God would raise someone up in the branch of his family to great benefit to mankind. Anyhow, in his old age, Hazel read the Book of Mormon, and when he died in late 1830, he knew the Book of Mormon was true and that his grandson was a prophet. That's a great statement. Mary Duty had 11 children. She moved to her husband to Massachusetts, to Vermont, and looked for a new farmer. In the later years, Mary had a strong testimony her grandson was a prophet. In 1836, Mary went to Kirkland. I didn't know that. I didn't know that she did. Anyhow, Ohio, together with the saints, she died 10 days after arriving there. Wow. Joseph Smith Sr. Joseph was a good man who believed in God. He met his wife Lucy at her brother's store in Tunbridge. I always want to say Turnbridge, but it's Tunbridge, Vermont. They were married in 1796. Several times Joseph had dreams that prepared him for the coming gospel and supported his son in his calling. Lucy said that his affectionate companion and tender father ever blessed the confidence of the family. Anyhow, he was the first baptized. The gospel was restored and being the first patriarch of the church in this dispensation, Lucy Mack. His mother, of course, Lucy came to the decision when she was about 19 that Christ Church no longer on the earth. Once, when Lucy was very ill, she pleaded with the Lord for her life, promised him that she would serve him best as she could if he would spare her. She heard the voice giving comfort, and she kept seeking for a religion that would bring her closer to him. Joseph Smith Jr. was her fifth. Joseph Smith Jr., which is the prophet Joseph Smith, was her fifth child. Gospel he restored was an answer to her prayers. Her children were unnamed. Her children were an unnamed child who died shortly after birth. Alvin, Hiram, Sophia, Joseph, Samuel, Ephraim, William, Catherine, Don, Carlos, and Lucy. I didn't know that she had a child, an unnamed child died shortly after birth. I didn't know that. Learn something new every day. Solomon Mack. This is born in 1732. Solomon was only 4 when he was apprenticed to a nearby farmer and apprenticed until 21. After that, he enlisted in the French and Indian War as was a merchant, land developer, shipmaster, and a farmer, among other things. Wow, truly talented man. He had many unfortunate incidents during his lifetime, including being hit by a falling tree. Wow. Later in his life, he read the Bible and was convinced that the life of service and devotion to God. Solomon died a few months after Joseph received the first vision. Something else I didn't know. Lydia Gates. Lydia was a school teacher. She married Solomon in 1759, taught her 8 children, probably her husband, to read and write, and also about religion. Interesting. Taught her husband to read. Wow, interesting. Ebenezer Mack. Ebenezer was John and Sarah Mack's 8th child, and his family lived on the Mack estate, but had very hard economic times there. Hannah Huntley. Hannah married Elizabeth Ebenezer when he was 30. John Mack. John was Joseph Jr.'s great-great-grandfather. When he was 16, he left the Inverness, Scotland, and arrived in New England in 1669. So, great-great-grandfather. Sarah Bigley. Sarah and her husband spent much of their lives in Lyme, Connecticut, had 12 children, and they had large families. Joseph Jr. Prophet was born on December 23rd, 1805, fifth of 11 children. Joseph married Emma Hale in 1827, had 12 children, including 2 adopted children. He was martyred on June 27th, 1844. He left the fame and a name that cannot be slain. He lived great and died great in the eyes of God and his people. Doctrine and Covenants 135:3. There you are. Very interesting. Learned a couple things. Have a good day. This is Roger Mark from Billings, Montana. Good day.